Today I'm going to show you how I decorated this Minnie Mouse cake. Come join me. So before actually beginning the cake itself, I had some decorations to make. So I started first with doing some fondant in black. I dyed it with some food coloring and cut out some letters and in that black fondant. I made a large 2 for the 2-year-old individual who this cake is for. I also made some cake pops and some chocolate covered marshmallows that are going to be placed on the top of the cake. Here I have some red fondant that I use to make the bow that's going to go on the front of the cake. So here I am folding the bow up to shape it. This is going to be sat aside for a few days so it can harden. You'll notice I have some paper towels wrapped into the loops of the bow so that it can harden, and it has that loop that will stand up, that will help the bow to stand up as it dries. Using some piping gel to secure it on the back and cutting off the excess of that bow that secures it shut. Not doing the tails at this point. I'll do those on the day that I actually decorate the cake. Here I am taking those black letters and numbers that I had done previously, and I'm painting them gold. And to do that, I used some alcohol and some luster dust to paint them. There's also a gold bow here too that I'll use on the side of the cake. Here I am rolling out that fondant. This is where I was actually putting that bow together. I have the videos out of order, but this is where I'm actually rolling the dough up. You'll see here I have one long strip that I'm rolling up either end to form those loops. I have some paper towels inside of it. That's how I created the loops. Here I have a thicker piece of fondant where I put an edible image onto the top of it. I'm going to cut out this image and let this dry. I do have some Tylose powder in that fondant so that it dries extra hard. This is going to be the center front of the cake. Really just kind of bring together the theme of this cake. Here I'm using an X-Acto knife to cut out this image without distorting the fondant. Here I am, I'm taking some balls of fondant and I'm rolling them into different sizes. I'm going to be placing some of these on top of the cake as well. These are going to go alongside of the pieces that I had made earlier, the cake pops and those chocolate covered marshmallows. So I have different shades of pink, and here I'm also painting some of those gold the same way that I did those numbers, painting with some alcohol and some gold luster dust. Then I'm letting those sit aside and dry until they get really hard and the paint itself dries as well. Now I'm beginning to actually put the cake together. This is a 4-layer 6-inch cake. It's 2 layers of chocolate and 2 layers of vanilla. So I'm putting some buttercream onto the cake board and using that to secure the cake still. You'll notice I'm putting this back a little bit from the front of the cake so that I have some space in the front to decorate the cake and have some items on the cake board itself. Putting some buttercream in between each layer of cake to stack the cake, and I'm just going to cover it and crumb coat the cake. So I did the first 2 layers in the chocolate. Next 2 layers are going to be in vanilla cake. Here I am adding the first of the 2 vanilla cakes. And here I'm adding the last layer of cake to this stacked cake. Going to finish crumb coating this cake. Once I have it fully crumb coated, I'm going to take some dowels and I'm going to put it down the center, well actually to the sides of this, just to make sure that there's some structure to keep it sturdy. And then I'm going to go over the cake with a full layer across the whole cake to make sure that it's fully iced. And we're using this pink color, the same as I used for the crumb coat. And I'm going to smooth that out nice and smooth, and I'm going to square off the top of this cake to give those nice crisp sharp edges on the top of the cake. So here I am using my bench scraper to use to help clean up the sides of that cake to make it nice and smooth. Here I am using just a little bit of extra buttercream to fill in some of those gaps that are still remaining after using the bench scraper, and I'm going to use the bench scraper again to finish cleaning up the sides of this cake. Then once I have it fully cleaned up, I'm adding first that Minnie Mouse that I had done with the fondant. Here I am adding the tails of the bow, as I mentioned that I would do on the actual time when I was doing the cake. I'm going to add those to the front of the cake board and then set that bow on the top of it so it looks like our bow is just kind of sitting there on the front of the cake. Then I'm going to begin adding those cake pops and the chocolate covered marshmallows, as well as those fondant balls that I had made to the top of the cake as well. Here are some of those fondant balls, and you can see that these are in all different colors, the different variations of pink. We have white and gold. We're just putting those onto the top of the cake. I'm also putting some onto the sides of the cake, and that is really because there were too many for the top of the cake, and the individual wanted a specific number of them. There just wasn't enough room on the top of the cake. This cake did give me some difficulty, so I had to adapt the design a little bit. You'll notice I just put the gold bow onto the front of the cake, and I am doing that because that's going to be a bow that is simulating a bow holding strings that is holding these items that I just put on the top of the cake, because this is really supposed to be a bouquet of balloons. So I'm drawing right now some strings to a bunch of these now balloons that I've put onto the top of the cake. So you'll see me doing some lines from the bow to the different balloons on top of the cake. And that's it's kind of linking to that bow. Then I'm drawing some lines underneath the bow where the strings would be coming out the bottom of the bow. You can see I have the individual's name on the front of the cake as well. That's the birthday girl. I also do add some sprinkles to up above Minnie's head, which I don't think I recorded doing that. And with that, this is what the cake looked like. If you enjoyed watching this video, I do encourage you to like, comment, share, and subscribe so you miss no future content. Thank you so much for joining. Have a great day.